You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for joining me here today on our Training Thursday show of the Cabral Concept. This is where I get to speak almost every Thursday. Sometimes we'll be using it for our Toxicity Thursdays now to teach you about all things health and exercise, sometimes related to body transformation, and sometimes how exercise actually helps promote overall health. Well, today I want to combine both nutrition and exercise together. One of the the age-old concepts is there a way to out-exercise a bad diet? Back in my day, we used to call it, can you out-train a bad diet? So although I've answered this kind of in part on a host call many hundreds of episodes ago, there's been quite a bit of interest and quite a bit of questions coming in from the community, which of course is where I go to for show topics on that I should talk about this. And so, of course, I want to answer this for you, and I want to answer it in a little bit more depth. So here's the thing though, on episode 657 at stephencabral.com/657, if you haven't checked out that show yet, I would. It's called How Many Calories Do You Need to Eat Every Day? So I don't want to rehash that entire show. What I'd love you to do is check out that show after today's show, and I teach you how to calculate how many calories you need to eat per day. And I also teach you on that show how to figure out how many calories you burn per activity to show you how you might be able to out-train a bad diet. So let's talk about this kind of big rocks perspective. What does that mean exactly? Well, here's what it means is that when we're looking at our basal metabolic rate, and that's what I talk about on that show as well, that's kind of the number of calories that we need per day just to maintain our body, our composition, our weight, without a lot of added exercise, okay? Our resting metabolic rates, yes, RMR. And what we're looking at is, okay, we can do it through a certain type of breath test that I used to do that I just find inconvenient now. We use it more of a calculator. And again, I give you that on episode 657. So what we do though is we figure out what our resting metabolic rate is. And that's how many calories essentially we need at rest to maintain our weight. Pretty standard. We can figure that out. But also, we're able to figure it out through food journaling as well and kind of keeping track of how many calories you're eating per day and does your weight kind of maintain the same weight. And of course, a calorie is not a calorie is not a calorie. And we'll talk about that a little bit today as well. But what I want to go through is that once you know that rate, you know how much exercise you need to add in order for you to eat surplus calories as well. And again, it's not always calories in, calories out. I'll be the first person to tell you that. I mean, really. I spent the last month on different podcasts and different interviews, speaking to many, many different hosts out there, podcast hosts out there, and really talking to people because here's the deal. There are a lot of people right now who are in the unfortunate circumstance where they are a personal trainer, their health coach, their doctor, their friends, their parents, their relatives, everyone telling them, you just need to eat less and you need to exercise more. Well, I can tell you that there are a lot of people out there who are exercising, and I'm telling you right now, there are a lot of people who are eating less than 1,600 calories per day, and they still can't lose weight. What do you want those people to do? Exercise 2 hours a day? 3 hours a day? Like how much is okay? And then how little food do you want them to eat? 800 calories? Well, of course, we don't want to do that. For those particular people, it's no longer a calories in, calories out equation. It's actually a hormone and metabolic based issue. That is when you absolutely do run the thyroid hormone adrenal test. You'll want to run an omega-3 test to look at those inflammatory omega-6s to omega-3s. And I would probably run what's called an organic acids test to look at that gut function as well. So that's a different story for another day. And I've talked about that. I have many, many podcasts on metabolism and metabolic testing. I have many podcasts on weight loss testing. So feel free to check out those. Today, though, what we want to talk about is, let's say that you aren't really paying attention to your calories and you might not be as consistent. You might be eating a little bit more than you should be, or you're wondering, well, what if I could just keep my diet the same and I could then exercise a little bit? Is that possible? Can I actually out-exercise a bad diet? Let's talk about that right now. So I always want to bring you the unbiased side to health and fitness, weight loss, wellness, anti-aging, all of those things. I never want to take a side. So I'm not going to take a side on today's argument as well, because you may be able to out-exercise a bad diet to a degree. Will it get you healthier? No, it will not, all right? Because if you're eating inflammatory food, or if you're eating processed food, you're not going to be healthier. But what if you just want to consume more calories? What if you really enjoy eating and you enjoy eating healthy food as well? And what if you like to eat carbohydrates? God forbid you have a sweet potato, some fruit, like not the end of the world. But if you're exercising, you'll actually be able to consume that to a better degree. So let's go through that right now, and then I'll give you the other side of it. Okay, so there are ways to out-exercise a bad diet, or maybe just increase calories. And I want to show you a simple equation for most meals. Okay, again, this is going to vary based on the meal that you're having. But let's say that you're having 1 cup of a sweet potato or squash or yucca or any of those things, right? Some root vegetables, or maybe it's oatmeal, okay? 1 cup of most of those starches is somewhere around 44 grams of carbohydrates. Now, there's going to be somewhere around 5 grams of protein, a couple grams of fat, all right? So we're just going to go with estimates today because all you need right now is estimates. That's it. Just about, okay? So you're going to consume somewhere around 220 calories for 1 cup of starch, all right? So about 44 grams of carbs, again, 5 protein, couple grams of fat, all right? And if you're not familiar, which most people I'm sure are not because this is not their field of study, every carbohydrate gram and every protein gram is going to be approximately 4 calories. And every fat gram is going to be approximately 9 calories. So we get twice as many calories in fat as we do in carbs and protein. Okay, we're just looking at calories. We're not talking about what those calories do to blood sugar. We're not talking about what they do to inflammation. We're just talking about calories for a moment, okay? Don't get mad at me. All right, so we have 1 cup of starch to that meal. Just like think of like going out to a restaurant and having a baked potato. Pretty simple, right? Okay. Then we have 1 cup of protein, basically a big handful of protein. Well, what would that equal? That'd be equal somewhere around 6 to 8 ounces of protein, okay? That's a small, that would be like a little filet mignon or a nice piece of salmon or a big cup of shrimp, or it would be, you could think of it even as close to a cup of beans as well. All right. So in that, even though beans will actually be a little higher calorie, believe it or not, because they have both, or they have all 3, protein, carbs, and fat, whereas the animal-based or fish-based, pescatarian-based, would have no carbs, but predominantly protein and some fats, okay? I'm not saying which one is right or wrong for you, simply talking basics today. All right, so that's going to be approximately 6 grams of protein or so per ounce. That we could have anywhere around 9 grams of fat, depending on what type of protein that it is, leaner or not leaner, and 0 carbs. So we're going to be somewhere around 300 calories for that 6 to 8 ounces of protein. Okay, good. So right now we have 220 calories for our starch, about 300 calories for our protein, but that protein we're talking about right now is a full cup. So a good amount of protein, a good amount. And then what we're talking about next up is 4 tablespoons of fat. Now, why am I saying 4 tablespoons? Okay, here's the deal. Typically, I recommend somewhere about 2 tablespoons of fat. But if you're out to eat at most places, like you're not the one cooking, or again, most people are cooking this way as well. If you cook in oil, you're probably cooking in a couple of tablespoons of ghee or coconut oil if you're healthy, right? Or you might be cooking in olive oil or whatever, right? You might be cooking in some type of oil. Usually that's a couple tablespoons. All right. That's not burning off. That's going into your food. All right. So we have 2 tablespoons right there. And then as a dressing, a lot of people like to add another 2 tablespoons of whether it's avocado or maybe some seeds or seed butter or maybe more olive oil or coconut oil or ghee or grass-fed butter or whatever, avocado oil, macadamia, who knows? All right. So now, believe it or not, we're at 2 tablespoons with the cooking and we're at 2 tablespoons with the dressing. Now, this is really where it adds up, okay? Most people don't know this, so I just like to share it. Every tablespoon of fat, almost across the board, is about 120 to 130 calories. All right. So if you have 4 tablespoons, 2 with the cooking and 2 with the dressing, and sometimes people are a little bit more liberal with the dressing, and that includes avocado as well, you are at approximately 480 calories, or somewhere around 500 calories. So again, am I saying this is bad? No, I'm just talking calories for a moment. That's all. Strictly calories. That's why in the beginning, if you're not looking at calories, they can add up. But the nice thing is, I'll talk about in a moment, we can burn those off with exercise. That's why it is nice to exercise. Okay, so what does this meal look like? We've got a baked potato, or we've got a baked sweet potato, which would be even healthier. We've got a cup of protein. Pick your favorites, vegan, pescatarian, or paleo style, or carnivore, however you want to say it. And then we have a couple tablespoons of fat. In this case, a little cooking and then a little extra on top. Well, believe it or not, this meal is around 900 calories. 900 calories. 220 for the starch. We have 300 with the protein because it was one with a little bit more fat in it, right? So we're looking at 9 grams of fat or so, 10 grams of fat in that. And then we're looking at the fat that was cooked in, and that's about 480 calories. Again, we're not judging if it's good or bad fat. We're just saying it's calories, right? So that's about 500 in fat. We've got 300 in protein. That's 800. No, we're actually at 1,000. It's just my math is so terrible when I'm doing a podcast. Probably couldn't be worse. But that's why, luckily, I can do the addition if I actually see it. So 500 and 300 is 800. I can do that math. And another 200 or 220 is 1,000 calories. That's a normal meal. Like, that's a pretty normal meal. Think of it. Sweet potato, big thing of protein, not really watching your fat. You're just kind of adding it in. You're not really paying attention. That's another 480, 500 calories. We got half the meal from fat. That's what I try to teach people. I'm not saying fat's bad for you. It can add up, though. Really can. When I teach in my private practice, and if you were to work with us, with one of my health coaches, with myself, with anyone really, or anyone that teaches a health practitioner or a health mentor, we're doing 2 tablespoons per meal of fat, right? So now we cut all the way down to 240 calories. Now you just cut that fat in half. Again, I'm not saying the fat's unhealthy for you, but we don't want to go overboard. We really don't. So 1,000 calories, right? So what if at lunch, again, this doesn't include veggies. Why didn't I include veggies? Of course, half your plate should be veggies, right? Of course it should be veggies. But I'm counting veggies as basically a net zero because they're so healthy for you, right? But you're still probably getting 50 calories, 100 calories in veggies. And a lot of times you're cooking those veggies in what? Fat. So we have to be really careful with that. But I'm counting your veggies as basically net zero. Keep eating your veggies. Fill up in your veggies. The point of this one is eat more veggies, less of all these other things, more veggies, because they're basically so nutrient dense and so low calorie that is what you want to fill up on. But that was a show for many other days, and I've done that show. So here's the deal. We just ate 1,000 calories. I'm guaranteeing you right now that you could wake up in the morning and you could do some oatmeal in the morning. You could do some eggs and maybe some turkey sausage. Some people do. And I bet you could do a side of avocado, right? Or a whole avocado on the side. Guess what? That's 1,000 calories. It's 1,000 calories if you're going by the 1 cup starch, the 1 cup protein, and the 4 tablespoons of fat, right? Look at that. I bet you at lunch, you could do let's come up with a different equation. You could do rice, okay? You could do chicken, we'll just say that. And that was all cooked because you went to one of these places that do the bowls, right? They do like the rice bowls, okay? And they're adding the fat in there and they're adding some beans with that chicken. Maybe you're doing some kind of like Mexican type place. Great. Well, healthy. Could be 1,000 calories. Could be, but you can check their menu, right? And then at dinner, you get home, you have your sweet potato, you have your salmon, you have some asparagus, and you cook that asparagus in some olive oil. And then afterwards, you drizzle some more olive oil on top. Right there, another 1,000 calories. You see how easy it is, even eating healthy? Again, you could argue, and I would argue as well, that that's not healthy, but you could say those 3 meals, that's 3,000 calories, right? Do most people need 3,000 calories? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, right? So what I'm saying on this episode is we need to be careful that these calories add up quickly. And on episode 657, I teach you to look at those things, but also I give you an app calculator. It's completely free to use, and it's called Lose It, okay? Again, you could use so many calorie counters. Please don't, I don't own any stock in any of these calorie counters. Use the one that you like the most. I've just found Lose It to be really user-friendly, simple to use, and it's free. Okay, I like the word free. That's a nice one when it comes to apps and these calorie counters. I would even say this. Don't count it starting today. Write in when you use the Lose It app or one of these apps. count what calories you ate yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. Add those up. Look at it. What is it for a day? What are your macros? What are your carbs, proteins, and fats? Maybe one of them is just too skewed. I used to find like I ate a tremendous amount of fats. And again, some people will say you can't eat enough fat. Like you should eat like 200 grams of fat per day and try to make it saturated because that's even better. Okay, those people clearly have not looked at the research across the board. But anyway, tongue in cheek there, I was eating way too much. I think you'll find sometimes one of your macros is like very, very skewed. So anyway, it's a great way to see, are you really potentially eating too many calories? Now, here's the nice thing. Besides that breakfast that I named, those other meals, that lunch and that dinner was pretty healthy. Like I didn't name an unhealthy lunch and dinner. I believe that the methodology we use that is being proved out in the research, that's more Mediterranean style, that's more blue zone style, that's more anti-inflammatory and much easier to digest is the way to be. More like the smoothie for breakfast or the very cleansing breakfast. Again, I've talked about this on many, many other podcasts, and today is not a breakfast-based episode. But anyway, what I'm saying is you do want to be able to eat good food, and you don't want to eat, as many people say, like a rabbit, right? Like, not that there's anything wrong with eating like a rabbit, but I want to use the analogy that I don't want you to just eat hardly any food at all. I want you to actually feel satiated when you eat. So here's what I want you to do, is when you begin to add exercise into your daily routine, or at least 4 days per week, like a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with days off in between, and then pick a day in the weekend just to be active, like not just walking. Again, walking for all humans. Again, you can always say everyone, right? Because I have people in my practice and they have foot and ankle-based issues, they have spine, whatever it might be, and they can't walk their 10,000 steps. But everyone should go from the average of walking 3,500 a day, try to add 500 steps or so per week, and just work your way up to 1,000 if you can, right? Really does matter. 10,000 steps a day, that's normal human activity. Try to do that. Okay, but here's the deal. If you start adding in every other day exercise, you, believe it or not, will be able to eat more calories, more good calories, and you probably enjoy it. Why? Because when you exercise, on episode 657, I know I keep going back to that, but the truth is that it was a good episode to listen to calculate how many calories you're actually burning during types of exercise. This is very interesting. A lot of people overestimate the amount of calories they're burning during exercise, okay? So most people, it's not just their first month or two into exercise, because you'll actually burn more when you first get into an exercise program, and then less the better shape that you get. It's kind of too bad, right? Like you're saying, I actually get harmed or I get discredited for the better shape I am. But yes, your body actually becomes more efficient at exercise the more you do. Very interesting. But most people will burn about 100 calories every 10 minutes of exercise. So that means the majority of people will burn somewhere around 500 to 600 calories per hour. But most of us are recommending around 40 minutes of exercise. That means you're going to be burning somewhere around 400 to 500 calories maybe per hour. So think of it as that. So even if you are exercising every day, your caloric burn is probably somewhere around 400 to 500 calories. So that means if you're looking to eat a little extra one day for that cheat meal or whatever it might be, well, I don't think we can go overboard. Remember, it's so much easier to eat that 1,000-calorie meal than it is to exercise. Remember, let's just say you go to a restaurant and you're having pasta with cream sauce, a glass of wine, some bread, and dessert. You're talking about closer to 2,000 to 3,000 calories just for that meal. And I was being nice at 2,000 calories. Probably closer to 3,000 calories because of the amount of fat. Remember, even if that meal only had about, let's just say, 20 grams of fat, and I'm doing easier math for myself, and I'm multiplying 20 times 9 calories per gram of fat. 20 tablespoons of dairy and oil that went into the sauce for your pasta. Remember, that might seem like a lot, pretty common, really common, believe it or not, is to use that much butter and cream and oil in your sauces and all of your meal. I'm talking about the whole meal combined. Because remember, just an avocado by itself is about 250 or so calories. That meal could have around 2,000 calories just in fat. It's very, very possible. Check that out. Again, that is nutrition-based. So here's the deal, though. So easy to overeat in calories. But here's the flip side. When you are exercising, you are not just getting caloric burn during the workout. if you're doing interval-based training, if you're doing resistance training, whether that's body weight or with weights, okay, and you're not overdoing it, but you're doing good, healthy exercise, as we've spoken about before on the Training Thursday shows, you will also get a metabolic effect, which will allow you to burn more body fats for up to 31 hours after that exercise. So remember, that's why we preach every other day exercise around here, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday around here. And the reason is this: after you work out, you can get actual fat burning results for the whole next day. Pretty remarkable. And that's why if you use science-based exercise, science-based training, interval-based, resistance-based training, I like people to do resistance workouts like the chest presses, the squats, the deadlifts, the step-ups, the lunges, the lat pull-downs or pull-ups, all of those things, right? All of those things, the big compound movements. When they do that, and they do it in interval-based fashion, I've spoken about this before, supersets, trisets, circuits, you will get the muscle toning, we'll call it muscle toning, right? Tongue in cheek, because your body will look better. But I know that's subjective, but you'll also get the fat burning results from that too. Now, does it give you carte blanche every night to have fettuccine Alfredo? That's where the 3,000 calories comes in. No, it does not. But will it allow you to have that fettuccine Alfredo with a glass of wine and bread once a week? Absolutely. Absolutely it will. Right. We're not talking about going overboard, but you can still have your favorite cheat meal once a week once you've gotten that fat burning furnace revved up. Don't have it your first week. Get your body revved up over 3 to 4 weeks, then add in that cheat meal every week and enjoy yourself. So what I want to do is pull this together. As you saw in the very beginning, you can be eating a pretty healthy meal. You can be having those veggies for half your plate. The one baked sweet potato, right? The 8 ounces, we'll say, of fish or salmon to make this a healthy meal. And then you could be cooking that salmon in some coconut oil or butter, and then adding some olive oil over your veggies. All of a sudden, we have 1,000-calorie meal. Again, am I preaching not to do that? I am not preaching not to do that. But how many times a day do we need to do that? That might be more of the question. How many times a day do we need a 1,000-calorie meal? Or could we cut back right away 240, 250 calories by not baking the fish or the veggies or any of those things in fat? Don't they have enough fat on their own, the fish? Absolutely it does, right? So let's bake the fish in some lemon, right? Or in some squeezed orange, any of those things. Give it some flavor that way, right? There are many things. I'm not the chef, but you can put ginger on it. You can put lemon. You can make it flavorful. Bake your veggies. They don't need anything right away, or stir fry them, saute them in a little bit of water at first. Cook your protein, whatever you want it to be. And then you can have that sweet potato. Maybe you only do half the sweet potato, right? Right there alone, we can add the olive oil, 2 tablespoons after a meal. We can use a little Himalayan sea salt, a little pink salt if we want, or a little Redmond sea salt. We can use some cracked pepper if you choose to. And then we can add that olive oil, 2 tablespoons, to make a nice dressing. We can add some thyme, some oregano, some rosemary. We can make this a delicious meal. All of a sudden, we cut back on the fat. We cut back from adding the fat after the meal. We don't want to cook fat anyways. Add the fat after the meal. Cold processed olive oil, organic, non-GMO, first pressed, cold pressed, in a dark bottle, all of those things, right? And we went from a full sweet potato to maybe half. Now, for a lot of people, for body transformation, we just cut your calories from 1,000 to 500, and it's still an equally delicious meal. And then we just added more veggies, more broccoli heads, right? More of the broccoli sprouts. We added some bok choy. We added some asparagus. We added a little arugula. We added parsley. We added all these great things that you don't have to worry about calorie-wise for those. So now you have the delicious meal, and we cut that down to 500. Super simple, right? Still tasty, same exact foods. You're not missing anything. You just started to cook and eat in a cleaner way. So I'm wrapping it up like this. 2 ways to look at this. If we're even talking about pizza, and if we're talking about cookies, and we're talking about all of those things, we're always talking about processed foods. And one slice of pizza is anywhere from 300 to 500 calories at most places. Could it be a little less if you're doing the thin crust, not a lot of cheese, mostly veggies? Sure. But we're not talking about trying to eat healthy pizza. Like, let's make it a cheat meal if you're doing that, right? So you're talking about 300, 500 per slice. How many slices are you having when you eat pizza? 2, 3? So you're looking at somewhere around what? 800 calories or so? How long would it take you to burn 800 calories? About, for most people that exercise, an hour and a half. That's a lot of exercise for those 3 slices of pizza. Now, Is that your cheat meal once a week? No problem. Go for it. Enjoy yourself. You're healthy. You've gotten yourself well. And you love pizza, one of your favorite things. You're out at a party. You don't feel like saying no. You don't feel like bringing your own Tupperware with salad in it. Good. Then enjoy yourself. That's your cheat meal. Have fun. Live it up. All of those things, right? But if you're doing that and you want to eat that on a daily basis, not only is it not healthy, there is no way you can out-exercise that type of a diet. And the reason is, as you just saw, you are only burning. Most people are only burning. Forget about what your elliptical says at the gym. It's souped up. Most people are only burning, especially after a couple months of working out, 10 calories per minute, okay? 10 calories per minute. So if you look at that just from caloric burn, you're looking at somewhere, again, around 500 calories an hour, and that would be around 750 calories for an hour and a half, maybe a little bit more. But again, your intensity will drop. All of those things will drop because you're not going straight for an hour and a half. Maybe you are. Maybe you're an elite athlete. We're not talking to you right now, right? I know Michael Phelps used to eat a full pizza a day, and that was just part of it. He needed to eat 8,000 calories a day. We're not all Olympians like Michael Phelps. We'll put it that way. I know that I couldn't do that. I would start to get quite rotund. We'll put it that way. So my philosophy is this, is that we exercise. It allows us to eat more healthy food so that we don't have to stick to just vegetables, that we can have some sweet potato, that we can have some squash, we can have some root vegetables, and we can even have a little oatmeal and fruit and those things too if we want to enjoy those if we're exercising. Because remember, what is starches and carbs and fruit and those things? They're energy foods. They help to replenish glucose as we use it up during the day. That's the healthiest way to think about it. Hopefully this makes sense. Can you out-exercise a bad diet? We'll put it this way. The answer is no, but exercise can allow you to eat a healthy diet with a healthy amount of carbohydrates and keep you healthy, balanced, and keep that brain buzzing with serotonin from all those good carbohydrates as well. Hopefully today's episode makes sense. If it didn't, always feel free to leave me questions at cabralsupportgroup.com or just go on Instagram and feel free to pop in a little question there on today's podcast, always on today's podcast, and happy to chat with you there. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this show is helpful, please do feel free to pass it on to anyone it may serve.
Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only two ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.